Hi, and welcome to the Christian Gamer channel. I'm Paul, and I'm using this space to share my insights from the Bible. I want to be clear right up front. I don't claim to have any special authority. I'm not a pastor, a theologian, an apostle, or anything special. I'm just an ordinary person who reads their Bible and wants to share what I've learned with the wider community. Because of that, your personal insights are absolutely no less valid than mine. I strongly urge you to join the conversation. If you disagree with anything I've said, or if you want to add something you think I've missed or glossed over, you are actively encouraged to do so. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments or even share a link to your own video. I know sharing biblical insights can be intimidating, especially in an age where simply trying to tell the truth can risk persecution or the fear of it down the road. But remember, God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and self-control. So let's not be afraid to stand firm and share our faith and insights with courage. Okay, let's do this. So in this video we're going to ask the question, can Christians celebrate Christmas? If you want to save a lot of time, the answer is, well, yeah, duh, but there are some caveats. The term Christmas is a portmanteau of Christ and Mass. It's Christ's Mass. That is to say, the Mass of Christ. And no, I don't mean how many kilograms he weighed. The word Mass is derived from the Latin missal, which comes at the end of the Eucharist, where the congregation is dismissed. After the Eucharist, which is called Communion or Lord's Supper in Protestant churches, the congregation is dismissed and sent out into the world to proclaim Christ in their lives. In Catholic and High Church of England and Orthodox liturgy, Advent is a period of fasting and preparation for the second highest festival in the Christian calendar. It runs from December 1st to December 24th, at least in the High Church of England and the Catholic calendar. In the Catholic Church, the end of the penitentiary vigil of Advent, that's the 1st to the 24th of December, is celebrated by a midnight mass. A ceremonial nativity scene is on display somewhere around the church. The mass begins with a proclamation of the birth of Christ, and it ends with a Eucharist, which Protestants would know as Communion or the Lord's Supper. Now, Christmas in the High Church of England or Anglo-Catholic Church often starts with the Eucharist or Holy Communion, with the use of vestments, incense, and a deacon and subdeacon, making it a solemn mass or high mass. The service is heavily supported by magnificent Christmas carols, hymns, and often a full choir and organ. Like the Catholic Church, there may be a procession with the Christ child figure to the crib or manger. Many Anglican parishes, regardless of their churchmanship, will also hold a very popular festival of 9 lessons and carols earlier in the evening, which is a beloved distinct Anglican tradition. Evangelical services range from everything from celebrating Christmas as the second most important celebration next to Easter, to those who ignore it and even those who condemn it as a pagan holiday. So the pagan midwinter festivals, the most famous of which is Yuletide. Yule, also known as the winter solstice, is an ancient pagan festival with origins in Germanic and Norse traditions, traditionally marking the longest night of the year around December 21st in the Northern Hemisphere. It is fundamentally a celebration of the rebirth of the sun and the gradual return of longer, warmer days, symbolizing hope, renewal, and the cyclical nature of life. Historically, a 12-day observance known as Yule in Old Norse The festivities often involved feasting, drinking, making oaths, and burning of a Yule log to honour the sun and encourage its return. Many enduring Christmas traditions, such as decorating with evergreen plants like holly, ivy, and mistletoe, and the Yule log, and aspects of gift giving, trace their roots back to these ancient Yuletide customs. Now, a quick note about the Yule log. In pagan tradition, the Yule log was cut from a tree that belonged to the household and burned to keep the family warm. A log was also gifted to people who had no trees, so that they too could keep warm over the midwinter period. Those who could not afford a log would gather sticks and bundle them together to make, quote, logs, and burn or gift them in order that the whole community could stay warm over Christmas. In modern times, the Yule log is a chocolate iced rolled cake that is consumed and only bears a similar shape and name to the Yule log. The same principle applies to eating a Yule log as applied to eating food sacrificed to pagan gods in the New Testament. In 1 Corinthians 8 verse 8 we read in the King James Version, "But meat commendeth us not to God, for neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat not are we the worse." And in the English Standard Version we read, "Food will not commend us to God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do." And in the New International Version, "But food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do not eat, and no better if we do." Another pagan midwinter festival is Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a major ancient Roman festival held in honour of the god of agriculture, Saturn, originally celebrated on December the 17th and later expanded into a week-long celebration that culminated around December 23rd. It was a time of immense merrymaking, feasting, and carnival-like disorder that famously involved the temporary suspension of Roman social norms. Most notably, masters would serve their slaves at banquets, and gambling was permitted in public. The holiday's atmosphere was one of joyous abandon, with citizens shouting the seasonal greeting Io Saturnalia, and electing a mock king of the Saturnalia to preside over the chaos. Other central traditions included decorating homes with greenery, wearing bright clothing, and exchanging simple gifts, particularly wax candles, to symbolize the return of light after the winter solstice, and small figurines. Many of its customs, like feasting and gift-giving, are thought to have later influenced the development of the Christian holiday of Christmas. And then, of course, we've got the birthday of the unconquered sun. This festival is arguably the most significant alternative to Saturnalia in explaining the date of Christmas. It was a late Roman imperial holiday established to honour the god of the sun, Sol Invictus. The celebration of the unconquered sun on December 25th, marking the point when the days begin to grow longer after the winter solstice, was very popular in the Roman Empire. The Christian Church later chose the same date to celebrate the birth of Jesus, Christ being the light of the world. Which is widely believed to have been an effort to co-opt and Christianize the existing pagan celebration. You might remember the idea of redeeming days from the Halloween study we did a few weeks ago. And then, of course, we've got Mother's Night, Modronit. The early medieval historian Bede records that the pagan Anglo-Saxons held a solemn observance called Modronit, Mother's Night, anyway, on the very night that Christians later celebrated as Christmas Eve. The festival was dedicated to the Maters and Matronae, or mothers, who were collective female ancestral spirits or deities. Scholars suggest this was a highly important event within the broader Germanic Yuletide period, marking the turning of the year and the honouring of the female ancestors or deities. And then we have Brumalia, which was a festival of winter revelry and feasting associated with the god Bacchus or Dionysus, where people ate and drank heartily to celebrate the end of the agricultural season. While it didn't fall squarely on December 25th, it contributed to the general month-long calendar of midwinter merrymaking, feasting and indulgence that the secular Christmas period called Advent eventually inherited. Now, from the late Middle Ages to the Victorian era, traditional Christmas celebrations involved public revelry that was not even remotely family-oriented. Public festivities began on Christmas Day and were celebrated until Twelfth Night. Social hierarchy was turned upside down. A Lord of Misrule was appointed to reign for the 12 days of Christmas and preside over the festivities, which included orchestrating games, dances, feasts and masks, and encouraging boisterous, often outrageous behaviour. Wassailing was a tradition that resembled a mix of trick-or-treating and carolling, often involving elements of threat and social coercion. Door-to-door begging groups of people, often from the lower classes, would travel from house to house, especially to the homes of the wealthy, singing, drinking and demanding food, drink or money. These groups could become quite unruly, and a refusal to offer hospitality could result in property damage or other forms of low-level harassment. The rich were expected to be generous and tolerant to avoid having their property or peace disruptive. Elements of it remain in the traditional Christmas carol "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," especially in the line "So bring out some figgy pudding." Now, the roots of commercial Christmas. The modern commercial Christmas as a family and child-focused holiday is largely an American and Victorian-era British invention of the 19th century, though its roots do go back much further. In New England, Puritans had outlawed the traditional secular Christmas observance due to its association with excessive feasting, drinking, and general misrule. German immigrants brought traditions like the Christmas tree, popularized in Britain by Prince Albert and Queen Victoria, and the idea of a child-centered gift-giving holiday, often tied to the figure of St. Nicholas, the patron saint of children. Literary works like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol in 1843 helped popularize a vision of Christmas centered on home, family, charity and nostalgia, helping to re-establish the holiday's prominence. As the holiday shifted from an unruly adult festival to a celebration for children, it created a massive new opportunity for merchants. Gift giving to children became a central element. The period from the 1840s to the early 20th century saw the gradual evolution of Christmas into the holiday we know today. Christmas cards, for example, the first commercial card was commissioned in 1843, helping to spread festive, often sentimental imagery. Santa Claus, otherwise known as Father Christmas. The modern image of Santa Claus as a jolly figure delivering gifts to children was cemented in this period, evolving from various figures like St. Nicholas and the Dutch Sinterklaas, based on the Christian St. Nicholas and the Germanic god Woden or Odin. While gift-giving existed before, the rise of mass-produced toys and the focus on children helped solidify it as a central element of Christmas Day. Urbanization and the rise of a prominent middle class led to a greater emphasis on domestic life and private family rituals, moving away from the more chaotic public and often drunken communal festivals of earlier times. Now, the 1840s saw the first period where Christmas became a commercially tied holiday aimed at children, particularly in cultural centres like New York. The first products were the creation of Christmas cards in England in 1843, and their spread when postage became cheaper in the 1870s was an early form of mass-produced holiday commerce. Marketers quickly saw the potential of the various personifications of Christmas, like Father Christmas and St. Nicholas. They began to associate these figures with their advertisements to sell goods. Even in the 19th century, people complained about the commercialization and excessive advertising. Now, the 1920s to 1930s solidified the modern secular Christmas experience. Sophisticated campaigns in the 1920s and 30s saw the rise of professional, psychologically driven mass advertising, especially on the radio. Advertisers began selling a complete Christmas experience where family happiness was directly linked to buying their products. Now, in pop culture, songs like White Christmas and Santa Claus is Coming to Town were part of this marketing blitz, helping to standardize what the ideal American Christmas should look like. To appeal to the broadest possible audience, Christians and non-Christians alike, advertisers focused on the secular elements, Santa, trees, lights, and gift-giving, elements not closely tied to a particular theology of Christmas. Now, there is a myth that Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus. Santa's appearance predates Coca-Cola. The jolly, plump man with the white beard, red suit and sleigh already existed in popular American culture well before the 1930s. The famous Civil War cartoonist Thomas Nast played a crucial role in fleshing out Santa's physique and giving him the North Pole home. The list and his reindeer starting in the 1860s. Nast's Santa was often shown in red, white and blue or even a yellow suit, but red was a frequent colour of choice. Santa was already depicted in red and white in advertisements for various products, including other soft drinks in the 1920s. Coca-Cola's true role. In 1931, the Coca-Cola Company commissioned artist Haddon Sundblom to create a wholesome, realistic and consistent image of Santa for their Christmas advertising campaign. Sundblom's version, which appeared in Coke's ads from 1931 to 1964, was wildly successful. It became the definitive, universally recognized and stable image for Santa Claus. While Coke didn't invent him, their sustained global marketing campaigns were so dominant that they effectively standardized and cemented the modern Santa Claus image in the public consciousness more than any other single source. So what's a Christian's response to the secularization of Christmas? While it's true that the secularization of Christmas is a deviation from its original purpose, both within the church and within pagan cultures, it is the Christian thing to embrace cultural norms where they are not explicitly forbidden and use them as a teaching opportunity to spread the gospel. That being said, we must bear in mind the principles from 1 Corinthians 8 and Romans 14, that we must be careful that our freedom in Christ does not become a stumbling block for our weak brother or sister. If someone's conscience is telling them that a perfectly harmless practice is sinful, then to that weak brother or sister it is sinful. And a quick Bible study on Can Christians Celebrate Christmas, which you may well remember from the Halloween study. It's almost exactly the same. God does not care if we celebrate special days or not. That means if you want to dress up as an elf or Santa Claus, or indulge in mince pies and sausage rolls and turkey with stuffing, you are free to do so. If you wish to abstain, that's fine too. That's from Romans 14 verses 5 to 9. Remember to have fun, just as Jesus did. Don't waste too much mental effort trying to please judgmental religious hypocrites who can't be pleased no matter what you do. You'll see that in Matthew 11 verses 16 to 19. However, don't use your freedom to destroy a weak Christian's faith. That's from 1 Corinthians 8 verses 9 to 13. If you believe putting up a Christmas tree or hanging mistletoe or putting on a festive jumper and reindeer antlers serves as an endorsement of pagan customs, avoid such things so as not to sin against your own conscience. That's Romans 14 verse 23. Don't rebel against religious hypocrites if they are your leaders in the church and they tell you to abstain from the festivities. For the sake of Christian unity, submit to their authority. That's from Matthew 23 verses 1 to 4 and Hebrews 13 verse 17. We must be careful not to become religious hypocrites ourselves, judging others for exercising their freedom in Christ, while we ourselves enjoy our freedom in other areas. That's from Luke 6 verses 37 to 38. And when participating in Christmas festivities, be careful not to be drawn into sinful activities such as drunkenness, debauchery, sexual immorality or adultery. And that's from Galatians 5 verses 19 to 21. Okay, so these are my lessons, and I'd like to stress they are just the lessons that I gained from the study. If you have different lessons, I would welcome you to leave your comments in the comment section. It is a gross oversimplification to say that Christmas is a pagan festival. Christmas, as practiced by traditional churches such as the Catholic Church, is a Christian festival. The dates, timings and aspects of secular Christmas are borrowed from pagan festivals but are not themselves pagan. Christmas, as practiced by the majority, is a secular holiday driven by the commercialization of both pagan and Christian themes. Enjoy it as harmless fun or avoid it so as not to offend your conscience. You will not be judged by God either way. Be careful at this time of year if you struggle with sins such as drunkenness, debauchery or sexual immorality, especially at office parties. And I want to leave you with some final words. Christmas is a time when most people spend with their families and friends. It is also the time of year when some people feel the pain of loneliness most keenly. Suicide rates are at an all-time high at this time of year. Please spare a little time on Christmas Day to reach out to people who might be alone this Christmas, even if it's just sparing a few minutes to make a quick telephone call so that people know that you are thinking about them. And that concludes our study on Christmas. I hope you found that useful. Please feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think. And I will look forward to seeing you in another video.